Harari begins by introducing the readers to the three major problems the world has faced and overcome, namely famine, plague, and war. Mankind should be more content now that his life is practically free from these common sources of misery. However, mankind does not settle for the simple things in life. Instead, he embarks on a more ambitious quest to become like God. The author goes on to explain some theories why man considers himself a special being. Through time, man has evolved from simple-minded individuals to highly intelligent beings. Humans try to set themselves apart from other creations by saying that only they have souls and consciousness. Latest scientific advancements and the theory of evolution, however, debunk the existence of the human soul. Scientists have also proven that animals too have a certain level of consciousness. Though there is much to learn in this field of understanding the mind and its consciousness, significant data have shown that the mind works by nothing more than electrochemical signals. Man's intelligence has also led him to invent codes that will soon become one of the most important meanings of expressing oneself. The development of writing has affected the lives of people, how these simple codes paved the way for humanity to be divided into two distinct groups, the educated and the dumb. Humans have become more controlled and labeled, as exemplified in the evaluation system of formal education. Writing has also become a way for man to make records and stories such as the Bible. This book has been the tool used in the quest for more money and fame, and occasionally spiritual maturity. People have always believed in God until man found ways to disprove his existence. Science and religion have always clashed against each other. Science has proven time and again that everything has an explanation, while religion claims that there are things beyond human comprehension. It has always been a challenge for mankind to marry science and religion, the result of which is foreseen to be favorable for a modern civil society. Harari also discusses how humans have become very neglectful of the environment despite all the warning signals the earth is showing to mankind. Science and technology have been used to give men all the comforts they need despite the destruction that these are causing to nature. Harari describes man's present state as being too confident of himself and his abilities, that he finds lesser need to rely on gods and other religious beliefs. Making ethical judgments have also become easier through formulas and numerical computations. Everything nowadays is seen as codes, algorithms, and data that can be processed and translated to sound and justified decisions. As man's intellect leads him to higher grounds of growth and progress, he also tends to lose control over his newfound power. What is initially meant to serve man may also be the cause of his ruin and despair. Technology and medicine keeps on improving with the aim of serving mankind. However, with the insatiable appetite of man for growth and progress, computers and superhumans may result in the collapse of mankind. The disparity between the elites and the less privileged mass will get bigger until there is already a great social inequality. Harari predicts that there will be two types of religion which will emerge due to man's quest for happiness, divinity, and peace: techno-humanism and data religion. The former speaks of man still hanging on to his authority over his decisions, while the latter is about man relying on data in making decisions for him. The future is seen with humans relying heavily on data and disregarding their inner voice in making decisions. Man is foreseen to be constantly connected to the internet and constantly feeding it data for the use of society. Although there is no certainty in this prediction, the current events show that this future is very likely to happen unless man changes his actions and steers the future in another direction. The new human agenda. Famine, plague, and war, partly because of these things, people in the third millennium are already starting to wake up to the reality that God does not exist. People are now more systemic in their problem-solving approach. They don't need to blame a God or say that the dreadful things that happen are part of His will and plan. When something wrong happens, humanity knows that it is the cause of human error. Humanity can now formulate solutions to practically any world problem. However, with major problems already having their preset solutions, humanity seems to be getting bored and somehow is looking for problems that can give life more meaning and interest. Instead of sitting back and relaxing, man is trying to find an excuse to use the power that he has. But first, How did humanity get famine, poverty, and war under control? The author illustrates the famine experienced in France in the year 1964. Due to the high price of food and commodities, the population was left to eat unclean things, inedible plants, and the blood of animals. The famine of 1964 in France also became a platform for opportunistic rich people who, instead of helping their poor brethren, took advantage of the situation by charging inflated prices to food that they hoarded. The king at the time, Louis XIV, only cared about his mistresses and his own comforts. Even China, which has billions of people in its population, experienced famine in ancient times up until the time of the communist reform movement. Because of developments in agriculture and food production, famine is eradicated in all of China. Famine and death by starvation have become overcome by mankind. Even in times of calamities and natural phenomenon, tsunamis, drought, typhoons, etc., the global community has been able to aid each other by providing enough food and clean water to those in need. There are even corporations and organizations that seize the opportunity brought by calamities to market themselves and make their names known. This is a win-win situation. The people receive help, and the big corporations make more money in the long run because of their exposure. There still are places with isolated cases of people dying of starvation, but these are very exceptional cases. More people nowadays die from overeating than from hunger. Medical statistics show how diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular diseases kill more people compared to those who died from diseases or terrorist attacks. It is even comical to see rich people to eat very small quantities of food and try to limit themselves to salads and breads, while poor people munch on Cheetos, hamburgers, and pizza. Malnutrition is still prevalent in some parts of the world, but these people are still able to survive with just enough calories provided to them by government safety nets. Next to famine, the author also discusses the origins of infectious diseases and how these spread throughout the world. People in medieval times did not have the knowledge of bacteria and viruses, as these organisms are too minute to be observed by the naked eye. A drop of water may appear to be clear, when in fact millions of bacteria are already in that droplet when viewed with the modern-day microscope. In the olden days, men hung on to prayers, gods, and rituals for salvation against plagues and diseases. Man tried to understand these infectious diseases as God's way of showing that he was displeased with man. Now, however, science has pinpointed global trade and colonization to be the major causes of epidemics. People coming from Europe brought infections with them to the Americas. The natives who had no immunity from these infections were almost wiped out in a matter of days. At the dawn of the 20th century, advancements in medicine and science had significantly lowered the mortality rates from infectious diseases. With the proper medical intervention, infectious diseases were no longer considered fatal. Global campaigns on hygiene and cleanliness were conducted worldwide. These health programs contributed to the improved health condition of communities and individuals. The discovery of vaccinations also led to the eradication of many diseases, including smallpox. Recently, doctors have even developed a new type of antibiotic called texiobactine, to which bacteria has no resistance. Another medical advancement that is being anticipated is the use of nanorobots that can navigate through the bloodstream, aiding in the identification and cure of an individual's sickness. While biotechnology is indeed a remarkable science breakthrough, malicious individuals such as terrorists are obtaining this knowledge and using it to conjure new pathogens to be used in biochemical warfare. The wrong use of biotechnology may give rise to new mutations and highly sensitive infections. Another perennial problem of man is war. Mankind always leaves room for war, even during times of peace. In ancient times, human violence was the cause of 15% of deaths. Nowadays, violence causes only 5% of deaths. War and crime have killed millions of people in 2012 alone. These acts of violence are brought forth by the desire to amass more wealth and power. Material resources such as gold and oil were the primary sources of profit from the ancient times up until near the 20th century, but now information and knowledge determine the height of power no one can scale. Knowledge is indeed power. Many wealthy corporations use this strategy to increase their assets and expand their reach. For example, the knowledge of Congo's rich coltan mines was utilized by Rwanda, stealing the raw material and selling it to manufacturers of cellular phones. Rwanda earned millions of dollars in revenue out of stealing from Congo. China, on the other hand, made peaceful business negotiations with tech giants and achieved greater financial success than Rwanda in one day. Peace has also been given to new hippie meaning. Countries can be at peace now, but who's to say what's next year will bring? Invasions and war can still happen based on the plans of one country affecting the other. War is always an option in this new kind of peace. Today, new forms of peace are being developed. Cyber war is especially on the rise, with the world leaning more on technology. It's a relief that there aren't many incentives to put cyber warfare into motion. It's just there to keep everything in check, to keep the new peace in place. Anton Chekhov once said that a gun appearing in the first act will be fired in the third. However, modern man has made many guns and bombs that have not been fired. These weapons are mainly kept as a show of power to other nations, like a warning sign of their capability to destroy. Still, there are some leaders who are tempted to use their newly acquired weapons. Ancient times used the law of the jungle to conquer and invade, but now freedom, democracy, and diplomacy are the laws that govern mankind. In the case of terrorism, it is likened to a fly which is basically weak and powerless. The fly buzzes in the ear of a bull until it is maddened and causes destruction to the fly's adversaries. Likewise, terrorists are weak groups who use the truly powerful people or nations to defeat their enemies. An example is the Muslim fundamentalist who enraged the USA so that the latter attacked Iraq, capturing and killing Saddam Hussein in the process. If people give in to the reins of terrorists, humankind will go back to using the law of the jungle. Man has surpassed many primitive challenges and has achieved so much in the past years. New forms of comfort and advancements are supposed to make man contented with the kind of life he is living. However, this is not the case. Man has an insatiable appetite for achieving beyond what he already has. Man tries to be like the gods he idolizes, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. This is the daring goal that man hungers to achieve. Despite the large control man has over the many forces and phenomenon in this world, bigger ambitions still drive man's quest for power. Today's society is past worrying about food insecurity, money, and other material comforts. It is now focused on obtaining more happiness and divinity in life. Man is now preoccupied with obtaining immortality. Man has been in search of the fountain of youth since time immemorial, and in the 21st century, it is slowly becoming possible to attain everlasting life. It seems that money and a healthy body are the only prerequisites to extending one's life. Ancient religions have always viewed death as an event to be anticipated. However, modern times have looked upon death as a technical failure. Death and accidents are now seen as events that could have been prevented or evaded. The human body used to be sacred and mysterious. Now it is treated as a machine with technical problems which can easily be fixed with drugs and medical procedures. Rich and famous personalities such as Aubrey de Grey, Ray Kurzweil, Bill Maris, and Peter Thiel are some of those who subscribe to the belief that man can live forever. Breakthroughs in genetic engineering and regenerative medicine bring with it promises of immortality. Harari also illustrates some setbacks to being immortal or having an extraordinary long life. One must stay in perfect health all the time, resulting in many anxieties. You could not simply eat out of fear of food poisoning. Thrilling activities such as mountain climbing, bungee jumping, swimming in the sea, and cliff diving would also be prohibited, since attaining immortality costs a huge fortune, and it would be such a waste if you ended up dying anyway. Many people also find the thought of regaining their younger bodies back appealing. Even today, many people undergo expensive cosmetic procedures just to retain their youthful appearance. The exterior shell of a person may be kept looking youthful, but modern medicine has not yet discovered a way to keep the internal body systems from aging. There has and always will be a struggle for eternal youth. People with money have proven that they would do anything just to keep looking and feeling young. On another end of the spectrum, Epicureanism is slowly becoming a popular worldview. More and more people are subscribing to the belief that there is no life after death. Life expectancy is now longer than ever, and yet happiness still seems to be far from man's reach. It still takes a lot of arduous work to achieve happiness. There is no one pill or fix that can make man happy for the rest of his life. Does material wealth alone equate to happiness? Apparently not. Data has shown that developing countries with many impoverished communities have lower suicide rates compared to first world countries. For example, in the Philippines, there is 1 in 100,000 people committing suicide, while in South Korea, a far more developed country, 30 in 100,000 people do so. Despite the glaring evidence that wealth does not equate to happiness, nation-states are striving to beat each other's GDP instead of focusing on the happiness and well-being of its people. Schools are established to produce skilled and productive individuals, not necessarily happy ones. Health systems have also been introduced, with millions of the national budget being allocated for hygiene, vaccination, and cleanliness of the environment. However, these health measures are not meant to produce happy people. These only strengthen the nation's overall health condition. British philosopher Jeremy Bingham believed that the government should be made responsible for the happiness of its people. He further stated that any dissatisfaction of the citizenry is a violation of the basic human right to happiness. Consequently, being happy requires a lot of effort. Joy is now harder than ever to bring to people. If in prehistoric times man was contented with the bare necessities, now there is a cacophony of factors to consider in achieving happiness. Modern medicine has now made it possible for man to be happy through the discovery of prescription drugs. Essentially, happiness is an effect of chemical reactions and sensations in the body. Drugs can activate the release of hormones that make a person feel happy. Depression, mental illnesses, and the occasional blues can now be cured in an instant. This biochemical pursuit to happiness, however, leads to drug-related crimes all over the world. Happiness is viewed as the supreme good, but it is also ephemeral and fleeting. It causes one to crave more happiness after the sensations have faded. Giant corporations use this knowledge as leverage for their business ventures. The author mentions 3 ways that man can be upgraded to godly beings. 1. Biological engineering. 2. Cyborg engineering. Or 3. Engineering of non-organic beings. With these methods, man will be able to manipulate and control pain, death, and life. Biological engineering seeks to rewrite man's genetic code. This aims to regenerate lost limbs or rewire brain circuits. Cyborg engineering is the fusion of man and machine. This already exists with the example of monkeys being able to control bionic hands and feet disconnected from their bodies with the use of electrodes installed in their brain. Humans are establishing a massive interaction with technology. People can already have microchips installed in their bodies. These chips can store vast amounts of information, which can be used for numerous automated functions such as operating machines and making electronic payments. Man keeps on trying to be like the gods they know. However, divinity has also been shown to have its limits. Even the stories of Jesus, Zeus, and Indra are filled with human problems such as love, hate, and pain. Furthermore, true godly powers include being able to manipulate the weather, change physical forms in seconds, travel great distances in an instant, and read minds. Humans have been able to surpass the promises of their gods. They have created better tools to help them survive on this planet. No god ever came down to water the crops or apply pesticides. These feats are born out of human ingenuity and innovation. The same can be said for medical breakthroughs. Scientists use the excuse of healing in their endeavors for stronger medicines, better genetic modifications, and other upgrades. Mankind is always looking for ways to make the next generation better, free from abnormalities and lethal disabilities. A human baby can now be designed in test tubes, and its genetic makeup can be chosen for it. Human reproduction isn't a lottery anymore. It can be engineered and modified. Although some states have banned this medical practice for ethical reasons, there may still be scientists undertaking covert genetic science experiments. At present, humans are gaining more information every second. Technology, medicine, arts, everything is progressing at breakneck speed. Because of this, man's way of living is constantly changing. The new knowledge gained every day makes it more difficult to predict humanity's future. Karl Marx once predicted that the capitalist system would collapse because of the crimes against humanity happening during the Industrial Revolution. In effect, British and French leaders have to develop new laws that would protect the workers and provide better labor compensations. Marx's prediction never happened, but it caused a massive change in the capitalist countries, changes that can still be felt in these modern times. Humans are always trying to be a step ahead of the future. Of course, this is never really true, but scholars still strive to broaden the horizon and peek into the future. Studying and acknowledging the past helps us to steer a better course towards the future. The future based on the past is easy to predict, but with new discoveries happening every day, the future is becoming more and more diverse and unpredictable. Humans like to make themselves feel like gods and are constantly trying to gain more life, happiness, and divinity. They believe this can be achieved through a more technology-dependent world. Humans have always been afraid of change, although conversely, they constantly act in its favor. Homo sapiens conquer the world. The Anthropocene. It is now the age of the Anthropocene, the time of man. Human population is now greater than that of animals. Mankind has made such profound changes in the world for the last 70,000 years. Humans have caused massive extinctions in many prehistoric animals because of their need to survive. Prehistoric men believed that the earth is shared by all living creatures. They believed that each living thing has a spirit which could communicate and connect with that of others. Up until now, many people still believe that animals are not so different from people, that they can feel and think as people do. Even the Bible shows that humans can interact with animals when the serpent talked and tempted Adam into eating the forbidden fruit. However, there might also be a hidden meaning in these Bible passages that suggests the snake is actually Eve, since the etymology of the word Eve means snake or serpent. Bible scholars therefore suggest that humans may have evolved from reptiles. Humans are, however, too vain to accept that they could possibly come from a species of inferior nature. Humans have always exhibited the power of dominion over all animals of land, air, and sea. Domestication of animals has been a practice that allows humans to keep animals as friends, slaves, or a source of food. Animals have suffered in numerous ways in the hands of man. Man has continuously neglected the emotional, social, and intellectual needs of the animals in his care. One example is the breeding sow kept in a crate that is just big enough for it to stand and lie down. The sow stays there for most of its life, breeding piglets that are eventually forcibly weaned at very early ages of 2 to 4 weeks and then separated from the mother to be fattened and slaughtered. This is a very pitiful state for most animals, and it is a tragedy brought about by the agricultural revolution. Scientists have studied animal biochemical algorithms that translate to emotions. All humans have machines that can perform algorithms for them. Animals only have their bodies and instincts to do the calculation for them. If they are able to correctly calculate their probabilities, they can survive. Humans and animals also share similar emotional experiences, an example of which is the mother-infant bond. Young animals need their mothers for survival, and this is especially true for mammals that feed and nurture their young through breastfeeding. During the 1950s, 1960s, studies and experiments on animals done by Harry Harlow showed that mammals can't live on materials needs alone, but more importantly, on emotional bonds. While farmers give their animals food, shelter, and other material needs, it is still cruel for them to neglect the social and emotional well-beings of those animals. They justified their actions with theist beliefs that God gave man dominion over all animals. This belief has led man to exploit animals in numerous ways. Several religions have stories of how God regarded animals and man. The Bible tells the story of Noah, who was instructed by God to save his family and 2 of every kind of animal in a huge wooden ark, after which God sends a deluge that cleansed the earth of man's wickedness along with all other living organisms. The Epic of Gilgamesh also narrates how the gods sent a deluge to the earth, killing all living things in it. When there was no more humans to sacrifice meat to the gods, they became mad with hunger. These beliefs solidified man's sense of entitlement that animals are made solely for use and control. During the scientific revolution, man used his advanced intellect to develop drugs that could be injected in farm animals to make them bigger or increase their production of milk or eggs. These genetic modifications allowed man to feed the ever-growing population of the earth. The human spark. Presently, humans are the most powerful creatures in the world, and they are at the top of the food chain. There is a belief, however, that among humans, some lives are considered more valuable than others. There is a human spark that makes humans believe there is something special about them, that they are created for a higher purpose. Humans strongly believe in the concept of souls and life after death. This continues to influence the lives of billions of people on Earth. Despite all the studies done by scientists and life science experts, there has been no evidence that humans have this so-called soul. However, the research runs on in the hope that scientists just haven't looked carefully enough and that the human soul does exist. A lot of people still reject the theory of evolution by Charles Darwin. They prefer to believe in the story of creation as it is written in the Bible. The thought that humans are the intelligent and superior design of God gives men comfort and a high regard for themselves. The theory of evolution is shunned because it states that humans came from simpler life forms. Humans just can't accept that they could possibly come from inferior beings, such as a single-celled protozoan or a less intellectual ape. The theory of evolution also implies that there is no soul, since every living form on Earth must have parts that should be able to evolve through natural selection. However, the soul, being immutable and indivisible, means that it has no parts and therefore it cannot possibly exist. The farthest that scientists have come to find the very existence of the human existence is the DNA. This sets one person apart from another. It is the distinct genetic makeup of every living being on Earth. The DNA is also capable of mutation and evolution, which gives further credibility to the theory of evolution. Humans have had this superiority complex since time immemorial. Though the soul has no known proof yet, one abstraction that is clearly observed in human existence is the stream of consciousness. Humans continuously crave and desire something in their lives. They experience doubt and fear and a myriad of all other sensations. René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, once stated that only humans have consciousness and that animals are only like machines. Animals simply react according to their biochemical algorithms without any emotion or sensation behind it. Even scientists before would operate on animals without giving them anesthetics just to see how they react and how their organs functioned. Up to this day, some people still subscribe to the idea that animals have no consciousness, and if they did have, it would be significantly inferior. Science still has much to learn about the workings of the mind and consciousness. The firing of brain signals remains largely a mystery despite the advancements in science and technology. The mind is the seat of power of any living being. It is the tool used for feeling sensations such as fear or hunger, and these sensations help humans survive and thrive. The mind is also a limitless storage of data, thoughts, and imaginations. The mind is different from the brain, as the brain is the physical part while the mind is intangible. Numbers and computations can be used to predict probabilities in anything that has algorithms, but the mind has subjective experiences that cannot be computed. The mind is unpredictable and diverse. There are many sensations that cannot be computed, such as pain, hunger, pleasure, or love. Google and Tesla are just some of the companies who are innovating technology with artificial intelligence. There are now autonomous cars that can cruise roads and stop at red lights without the need for a human driver. Although the car can make signals when turning right or slowing down, it does not have a consciousness. It does not desire anything, rather it is just functions based on how it is programmed. In the same way, natural phenomena such as lightning or earthquakes were once thought to be the will of God. But with science, man has now learned the process of lightning and earthquakes and is now even given a scientific explanation for it. It's not anymore because of God's wrath or God's punishment for men. To test whether something has a mind, a human being must be able to communicate with a computer using text messages without the human knowing that he or she is actually talking to a computer. This test is referred to as the Turing test, developed by Alan Turing during the 1950s. He predicted that in the future, it won't matter whether a computer has consciousness or not, but rather whatever humans thought about it. Nowadays, there are machines that can detect and record brain signals, which are proof of consciousness of a living being. These signals are transmitted mostly as beeps or lines. New Zealand was the first country in the world to recognize that humans are sentient beings, bringing forth animals' right legislation. Rats undergo swim tests in laboratories to see whether they had chemicals in their brains that made them despair or hope. It showed that rats' brains did produce chemicals that made them swim for 15 minutes before giving up. After being rescued and then put back in the water, they swam for 20 minutes before once again despairing and giving up. The extra 5 minutes showed that the rats held on to hope for a longer period of time. If a rat exhibited this behavior of despairing and hoping, then clearly its brain must contain chemicals that can safely be termed as antidepressant and depressant. This is perhaps what drives corporations to make drugs that are stimulants and antidepressants. After animals have been established to have consciousness, the next attempt is to know whether animals have a sense of self-consciousness. Scientists argue that animals do not have conscious memories and that the actions they exhibit, such as storing food for winter or defending itself from predators, are all non-conscious algorithms. However, animals' minds are different from that of humans. Thus, there will be no telling what really goes on in the animal's mind and how it perceives its environment. Skeptics and scientists can only guess at such. The cognitive abilities of animals are often undermined, though many instances have shown that animals are able to observe human reactions and act accordingly. This was exhibited by a horse in Germany named Hans. The horse could answer math questions such as 4 times 3 correctly by tapping its hoofs 12 times. Skeptics discovered that Hans could tell when a human is expecting him to tap his hoofs and recognized when he was already reached the correct number of taps based on the amazed face of the person or the cheering and clapping of the audience. Humans have been able to progress because of their intellect and ability to make tools. Another ability that made humans the most dominating creature on the planet is cooperation in large numbers. Elephants and chimps also show cooperation, but only with family members or a small group of close friends. Humans can cooperate even with strangers, and this helped create in the ascent to the top of the food chain. Humans have shown the effects of large-scale cooperation and how it shaped history. One example is the downfall of the communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, wherein during his speech a person from the audience booed. This single boo caused a chain of boos, and ultimately the whole crowd was booing him off the stage. This demonstrated that among strangers, an informal organization can happen in an instant when the mass has a unified feeling about their current condition. This event was the turning point of the Romanian Revolution. No longer did the people want to simply obey the commands given by that man in the balcony, and it all started with one person who dared to boo Ceausescu. Man has had numerous achievements because of the ability to cooperate in vast numbers. Humans do not scream and project hostilities towards each other as apes and chimpanzees do when they first meet. Other animal groups require intimate acquaintances before they can cooperate with each other. Scientists and psychologists try to decipher this human behavior by either testing animals in laboratories or by observing a small group of humans. These do not give accurate and relevant results because the dynamics of a small group do not exactly translate to the dynamics of a society. Humans can dominate the earth because they can create beliefs, laws, and they have a creative imagination. It is also observed that humans believe in one of the two realities: 1, objective reality, and 2, subjective reality. The former is the reality that exists independent of the mind, while the latter is based on what a person believes or feels. There is, however, the third kind of reality called the intersubjective reality. This type of reality depends on what is agreed upon by many humans. Money and currency are some examples of intersubjective realities. The value of money or a certain currency can change based on whatever is agreed upon in the stock market. Intersubjective reality can also refer to the meaning of something. Traditions, religious beliefs, rituals, these are all based on agreements made between people in certain groups. These meanings can change later on, and that is why it is intersubjective. It can go on changing and evolving as per the needs of the community it serves. What was important to our ancestors long ago may be meaningless to the current generation. The Crusades were an important thing during the medieval times, whereas now it is being played out as a parody in comedy bars and television sitcoms. Though this is the case, there are still many humans who are bent on proving that their fictional beliefs are real. Homo sapiens give meaning to the world. The storytellers. Humans make up stories that affect the world's fears and wishes. In order to gain followers, clever humans make up stories about gods. Humans with lesser intellect believe the web of stories about gods, their powers, and the need to worship and offer to them. The invention of writing and the concept of money allowed the gods to get rich, acquire more material possessions, and more power. Over time, gods were made real in the form of humans, as exemplified by the Egyptian pharaoh. The physical manifestation of a god reinforced the belief and trust of the people. Gods created by ancient people are no different from gods of modern times. Corporations like Google and Microsoft are likened to gods which need human workers to sustain its survival. Many people work for these big companies. The companies are technically immortal as many people believe in them and rely on them for certain information and services that they provide. Other brands include celebrities like Elvis Presley, who even after his death continues to be worshipped like a god. There is still a conglomerate of lawyers, producers, and agents working for the king, continuing the business and sustaining the success of the brand. The invention of writing further organized the algorithms that societies had. Leaders and their officials could easily communicate with each other through writing. They could determine the best strategies based on algorithmic calculations of the data gathered from their societies. These societies, therefore, flourished due to the successful calculation of probabilities, keeping the people satisfied and organized. Writing something down produces a record that is highly valued as evidentiary support in times of dispute. What is written becomes as real as any concrete object. Man has since developed a deep respect for documents, a good example of which is the rescue of thousands of Jews during the Holocaust with the use of stamped visas. Sousa Mendes, a Portugal consul, issued thousands of Portuguese visas to Jews, though he was strictly prohibited from doing so. The stamped documents allowed the Jews entry into Portugal, saving them from the horrific fates other Jews suffered under the Nazis. Even the present legal system does not care what is the truth, rather it takes sides based on the strength of the evidence presented. The only thing that matters is what has been recorded, regardless of whether it is the truth or a faked evidence. Our modern-day educational system is a good example of how writing changed people's lives. The high grades or marks given to a student usually pave the way for better employment and a more financially secure life. Holy Scriptures is another means of control of leaders and high priests during the ancient times. Not only did intellectual humans then use writings for keeping records of material offerings to the gods, they also wrote down commandments and stories about the gods and endorsed these as real to the unsuspecting populace. It took great writers to make good stories that struck the perfect balance between reality and fiction. The stories sounded very credible, and the gods were able to sustain their power for many years. No one dared to object these beliefs because these were written down and established as the truth in reality. These writings led to the organization of mass societies. Leaders used writings such as codes and laws to collect taxes and make megastructures such as pyramids and temples. Those who were uneducated led miserable lives as slaves, doing work in exchange for nothing. History goes to show that lives of prehistoric people were better than those of ancient people and modern-day people. Prehistoric people weren't measured with yardsticks and grading systems. They just foraged and hunted, getting their basic needs met. No one ordered them around with a set of man-made rules. There were no gods who needed offerings and demanded free labor. Up to this day, many people still serve in the name of their gods, sacrificing their lives for something fictional. The odd couple. Science and religion have always clashed against each other. As science progressed, it sought to answer the myths brought forth by religion. Religious people argue that there are many inexplicable things in this world. When humans could not understand or explain something, they readily point their fingers to the gods. Each world religion holds their own dogmas, rules, and punishments. They have their own rituals. No one knows whose religion holds the truth, and each party tries to indoctrinate the rest of the world about the certainty of their beliefs and the existence of their gods. People go into spiritual journeys in the hope that they will attain spiritual maturity. It is no different from an academic journey when a student sets out to study for years, take exams, and reach the ultimate goal of finishing the course. However, there are instances where the people making the journey is led to a different end other than what he planned to attain. There are also certain groups of people who believe in dualism, a world governed by two gods. One god is usually good, while the other is evil. The evil god used the everlasting souls created by the good God and locked them in his defective creations. Hence, human bodies tend to die and rot, while the souls escape and then gets locked up again in another temporal body. The goal of dualism is to free oneself from the material and temporal world. This is not a religion, but rather a quest for spiritual freedom. It has even been said that one should kill or rid himself of rigid ideals and laws established by any religion, even that of Buddhism. Martin Luther was the founder of the Protestant movement against the Catholic Church. He saw that the Catholic Church sold indulgences to people in exchange for gold or silver. He didn't believe that the Pope had the power to absolve people from their sins. He exposed the Catholic Church for the corrupt and fraudulent actions. The protest of Martin Luther exhibited how humans can revolt against something they think is not right. The results became profound when the rebellion was supported by a critical mass who shared the same sentiments. This showed that humans will always look for answers to their questions, thus the never-ending search for truth. Science and religion have always been seen as arch-enemies. Religion has many factual claims such as God exists or wicked souls will be punished in the afterlife. Science, on the other hand, cannot argue with these factual claims since there are no experiments yet that can prove or disprove these concepts. Science has always been useful in settling disputes that are of ethical in nature. There are also instances when the study of a religion is necessary for understanding the history of science. It took science a long time before it progressed. It had to overcome many religious restrictions before it had the chance to flourish. The idea of an overarching being governing the universe gives comfort to many people. Religion always seeks to put societies in order. Science, on the other hand, seeks power for humans. Religious groups tend to try and dominate one another by means of execution, slavery, or displacement. The same is true for men of faith and men of science. There is almost always a clash in between these two factions. There have been many attempts to reconcile science with religion. These two can actually cooperate in the search for truth. The modern covenant. Human lives are filled with endless attempts to gain relevance in the grand cosmic plan. They give meaning to their lives by going into conquest, finding their purpose, or joining organizations that share the same beliefs and goals they have. Conversely, modernity is somewhat nihilistic. Modernity maintains that life provides us no script and that our lives do not have any meaning in the vast cosmos. This gives way to the many existential angst that the modern culture is currently plagued with. Humans are still looking for the supreme being who promises them another dimension in exchange for the purposes they have served in the physical realm. During medieval times, when the cottage industry was prevalent, people lived life one day at a time. Predicting the growth of the future wasn't the main interest. Even if an individual wanted to pursue a scientific experiment, they can say cure an illness, his limited means would not be able to support his research. Nowadays, many banks and loaning agencies provide financial support to qualified individuals because they have a way to measure the success of a certain venture even before it has been started. Before, when there was a calamity or a disease outbreak, people prayed to their gods. Now an epidemic is considered a business opportunity by pharmaceutical companies. More business ventures translate to a successful economy. Science, too, is able to flourish during economic growth. While the economy is growing, the human population is growing too. More human needs seek to be met and standards of living are being raised every day. Humans need more and more stuff every day. The poor remain poorer and the rich get richer. The only way toward impartiality is for the rich to share the resources with the poor by giving them the portion of the pie they need to be on par with the rich. The modern world is sadly obsessed with growth. This obsession leads to a clash in ethical judgment and factual statement. A daughter can work towards her financial independence, but once her father has a stroke, then she will have to leave work early and take care of her father. She will also have to assist him financially and shoulder his medical bills. Her personal financial growth will significantly suffer, but it will give her the image of a caring daughter. Such is the quest for growth that it tends to be a wheel that does not stop turning. Capitalism is everywhere. It is even inculcated in games such as Minecraft or Civilization. From an early age, children are trained to be capitalists, starting with a modest startup and investing in structures and businesses that can gain profit and eventually upgrade and purchase more properties and facilities. Limited resources, therefore, pressure humans to find innovative ways to multiply resources. Humans need to find new sources of materials to sustain the growing economy. Since humans have discovered ignorance, they have acknowledged that there is still so much to explore on this planet. There is no need to fear resource scarcity because every day brings revolutionary inventions that can create more products and find renewable resources. Society's progress and growth are rising very fast, and the planet seems to be having a tough time keeping up with it. Global warming, mass extinctions, and severe pollution are happening right now. Humans try to ignore the planet's distress signals by building envelopes that give them the comforts they need, such as air conditioning and controlled environments. Humans have gone through many economic and ecological problems, but it is always the poor people that suffer the most during an economic crisis or problems with the environment. Humans have gone through many economic and ecological problems, but it is always the poor people that suffer the most during an economic crisis or problems with the environment. There have been countless conventions and agreements about protecting the environment from the pollution brought about by the various industries worldwide, and yet there is little actual implementation by the concerned parties. It seems humans are putting their faith in the hands of modern science. They continuously burden the environment while thinking that the planet can heal itself. Scientists will find revolutionary ways to sustain mankind, or space explorers will soon find another planet for humans to transfer to. People are more concerned about their business and profits, although protecting the Earth is supposed to be the top priority. The Humanist Revolution. Modern-day humans are more powerful than ever. Those who continue to wreak havoc in the world are the people who want to force their religion upon others. It is more violent in Syria, where there are a lot of Muslim rebels, than in the Netherlands, where many people are atheists. Religion has been used by man to create order and control over mass societies. It tries to attract people by saying that human lives have a greater meaning in this vast universe. It also makes humans believe that there is a supreme authority governing over their daily lives. Recently, humans have started taking matters into their own hands. They do not wait for their gods to give signs or instruction. They go ahead and do what they feel they need to do in order to survive. One example is the act of marriage between two people. Before, marriage was seen as a sacred bond because it was God who joined those two people, whereas now, marriage is sacred because of the love those two people felt for each other. Humanism has become more prevalent than even religions use them for their own gains. They appeal to the emotions of people rather than pointing out the laws God created. Human feelings and free will are the ultimate authority in justifying human actions. Beautiful works of art and music are not anymore considered to come from divine inspiration, rather from the genius of man and the emotions of man during the time of creation or composition. The economy is greatly affected by humanism because it relies on what the customer wants to pay for. It cannot simply produce something and force the people to buy it. People have to want or need things first. It is based on these needs that a product is crafted and sold afterward. If there is no demand, there is no need to produce supplies. One example is the genetically modified chicken with more meat. This product is needed by humans because if chickens were not modified, they would remain small and it would not be enough to feed the growing population of the world. Scientists have therefore invented ways to enhance poultry and make it produce more meat. Bigger and meatier chicken cuts are preferred by the buying public because it sustains them better than the normal-sized chickens. Humanism also teaches individuals that they are their own boss. Heaven is no longer a place high above the clouds, but rather a mental state that one can experience internally through actions and achievements. Humanists follow their inner voice instead of consulting and praying for their actions to a God. Humanists have discovered a new method of gaining knowledge and authority by means of collecting data and making computations. Holy Scriptures are no longer the sole basis for obtaining wisdom. The use of the scientific formula has led to many breakthroughs in technological advancements. Even ethical problems could be solved by taking the scientific approach. By gathering subjective experiences, emotions, and thoughts, human morality is improved. A variety of interactions with people and situations teach an individual what is ethically accepted actions and what are immoral acts. Humanism is also depicted in many fictional works to make them easily relatable and understandable. The Wizard of Oz is a fitting example showing different characters searching for strengths they thought they didn't have, the Tin Man searching for a heart, the Scarecrow searching for a brain, and the Lion searching for courage. During their journey to the land of Oz, they soon discovered that what they searched for was already within them. Human culture has produced wiser and better individuals who now know how to take into account the emotions and opinions of his fellow man rather than blindly follow his God's commands. Homo sapiens loses control. The time bomb in the laboratory. Liberty is valued by man because of his belief in free will. However, free will ceases to exist under the scientific explanation that our actions are not born of free will, but rather a result of the electrochemical processes in our brains. Free will is another one of those inexplicable and intangible concepts like the soul. It is also refuted by the theory of evolution. Natural selection makes humans what they are regardless of what they want to be. Though humans can act freely, they cannot control their desires, which are the root of their actions. People feel first before they think. This is based on the study done on a person subjected to a brain scan. Even before neurons were fired in the brain, the scan showed a biochemical reaction or secretions of hormones that trigger brain activity. Scientists have also discovered the technology of implanting chips in a rat's brain that can be used to manipulate the movements of the rat. The chip is connected to a remote control that is used to make the rat move right or left. Moreover, it also has a reward function, a button for producing pleasurable sensations for the rat when it has moved according to the orders given to it. Thus, the rat continues to move left or right as dictated by the controller because it is constantly rewarded with feelings of nirvana. The above experiment shows that humans too may be controlled with technology. Nowadays, a brain implant is used to temporarily paralyze the part of the brain that produces feelings of depression. This medical treatment is only used under exceptional circumstances. There is also the invention of a helmet that is fitted with electrodes which regulate and calm down brain activities. Soldiers use this so that they are more composed and precise on the battlefield. The brain is one of the best examples that negates the existence of free will. The brain is divided into two hemispheres, the left and the right. Some patients who have had a stroke in, for example, the left side of the brain tend to focus only on the things they can do on the left side. They comb only the left side of their hair or eat the things on the left side of the plate. There are also instances when the left hemisphere is not communicating properly with the right hemisphere. The left side of the body would do something totally different from the right. The brain can therefore be manipulated since it can be given different experiences. It is even done by the human body discreetly, a good example of which is childbirth among women. Even if the experience is very traumatic and bordering to death, at the end of childbirth, the body automatically releases hormones that make her feel great. This gradually decreases the feelings of trauma, and the woman is able to recover from it. There is no free will in doing this, just an automatic response of the body after it experiences trauma. This cannot be dictated by the person, nor can the person control the number of hormones produced by her body. Harari also explains here the narrating self and the experiencing self of man. While the narrating self can say something, the experiencing self may have actions contrary to what was said. For example, the narrating self says that it will go to the gym regularly. This may happen for a few days. The experiencing self then moves in, and upon finding the experience not so likable, prefers to just sit and watch TV instead of going back to the gym. The narrating self is therefore full of liberal beliefs about himself. He tries to give meaning to his life through the stories he tells himself. This belief translates that man's life has a higher purpose and deeper meaning in this universe. The stories we tell ourselves may sometimes lead to harming ourselves or other people. Wars are often the cause of many senseless deaths. People often fight for their beliefs regardless of the cost, which is usually death and suffering. It is mere stupidity to sacrifice things of value for a cause that is only invented by man. The same stupidity is seen in business ventures where corporations keep on shelling out money just to see the realization of a certain long overdue project. Even if the actual cost turned out higher than the initial budget, businessmen would say that it is better to have finished the project after investing so much in it. This excuses them from their failure to have good foresight and evaluation. It makes them believe that their investment was worth it. The Great Decoupling. There is a continuous effort to replace men with robots. Strangely, man is doing this to his own race. Soon, corporations will cease the employment of manual labor because machines have dominated production. The future also foresees the rise of superhuman beings brought about by the innovations in health sciences. These superhumans will be regarded as the most valuable types of humans, although regular humans will still have some value. These threats are very likely to happen in the future. Robots and drones will soon replace foot soldiers. Humans may still be of use as shields for advanced armaments. Wars will be waged through cyber technology. This will last no more than a few seconds to a few minutes. With a single computer key, a cyber war can be won with viruses or deletions of millions of valuable records. Which is more important, intelligence or consciousness? Human drivers can cause traffic accidents, while automated cars and network traffic signals can eradicate traffic problems. Plane tickets can be bought online instead of transacting with airline ticketing agencies. Human lawyers have to sift through stacks of documents for months to find loopholes in evidence, while lie-detecting machines can point out the culprit in a few minutes. Everything can be done through programmed algorithms. What will conscious humans do now that technology is slowly taking over many processes and forms of work? Scientists and experts say there are still so many things humans can do that computers can never do. Art, sports, and archaeology are just some preoccupations that may be hard for algorithms to replace. Computers and tests done nowadays can also predict the future of your health. This is exemplified strongly by actress and UN ambassador Angelina Jolie, who got herself tested for breast cancer. Tests showed that she carried the gene, which could mutate into cancer. Knowing this information, she immediately scheduled for a double mastectomy. She did not meditate or try to listen to her heart. She let the numbers speak for themselves and did something about the situation to prevent future possibilities of breast cancer. Computer programs can even pick up habits and patterns and make accurate predictions out of these. Facebook can determine your personality based on your likes and friends. Waze is another computer application that helps drivers navigate around traffic routes. Another software under development is Microsoft's Cortana. It strives to be a personal assistant who not only reminds you of meetings, but of your blood pressure if it gets too high, or your dopamine levels, among other vital statistics. This all-knowing network is becoming a massive thing, and humans are relying more and more upon it. Algorithms will become more empowered as computers control the lives of humans. Privacy and individuality are already becoming obsolete as people share more of themselves online. Computers will get to know you more than you know yourself and will make most of your decisions for you, way before you even consider the options. The rich will most likely be the ones to enjoy the services of these artificial intelligence programs. Just like in medical advancements, the latest in genetic coding or extending of life are treatments only available to the elites. Even Angelina Jolie's genetic testing costs $3,000, something that the lower class and the middle class may never afford their entire lives, even if they worked overtime. During the age of the masses, medical services are very affordable because the government and business corporations want to keep the population healthy and fit to work. However, with the advent of computers, machines, and artificial intelligence, it is not certain whether poor people will still be needed in the workforce. The ocean of consciousness. Mankind still longs for the age-old rewards of happiness, peace, and prosperity, while the elite are using these prizes as business opportunities. Harari mentions two kinds of new religion that will be formed out of these conquests. 1. Techno-humanism, and 2. Data religion. Techno-humanism discusses how the brain will be able to experience other mental states and experiences that are unbeknownst to it before. Animals, for example, have unusual ways of experiencing the world. Bats use echolocation to navigate and feed, and whales can hear one another from vast distances. These example experiences lead humans to upgrade the current mental state that it knows. Humans had supersensory abilities once upon a time. Hunters could smell game from vast distances too, and their eyesight was keen for spotting and targeting their prey. These senses turned dull over time, especially in these modern times. Man pays less attention now and constantly finds ways to preoccupy his senses through games, exciting new food, new travels, and other temporary highs. However, man is never satisfied and always craves for something else and something more. In a world filled with a myriad of options, this is not impossible. There is always more to life. Humans preoccupy themselves with many forms of distraction because meditating and hearing their own voice can bring a lot of unpleasant and inconvenient truths, although listening to oneself is humanism's first and foremost rule. No matter the difficulty, one should always listen to his guts or inner voice and follow it, overcoming any challenges that might get in the way. Man's desires are often met with some obstacle which makes obtaining the desire a difficult and uncomfortable task. Technology tries to eradicate any feelings of uncomfortableness. The wearing of the helmet that keeps a person's focus and calm, or the brain microchip that could control decisions, are some of the solutions that technology offers, so we would never have to feel discomfort. However, human will and experience still trumps technology. Humans still want to have authority over their actions. The data religion. Human desires and experiences can still be replaced by information. Data is seen to be the god of the modern era. Data about human desires and experiences can be gathered and made into algorithms that can lead to the ability to control human decisions. For example, the price of bread is determined by several factors, from the source of raw materials to production and packaging, shipping, and marketing. In a capitalist market, market forces determine the supply and price of certain goods. Producers can make a lot of bread or charge unreasonable prices. Consumers, on the other hand, can choose to buy the product or not. In a capitalist market, practically anyone can join. There is a lot of competition, and that is why prices are also usually competitive, to gain the most consumers. In a communist market, however, production and prices of goods are monopolized by a single body of authority. There is hardly any competition, so the price of a commodity can be steep, and people will have no choice but to buy it because there is only one source that provides the particular product. In a communist economy, there is also a single data processing system. Governments favor this because they can impose higher taxes on people. Production is also based only on what is needed, therefore there is less wastage and surplus products. In the same way that economies have capitalist and communist, governments also come largely in the form of dictatorship or democracy. Democracy favors work distribution, while communism prefers centralized processing. However, politics has been overtaken by the process of technology. The internet has given way to a lawless zone that can pose security risks. It still lacks many regulations and security measures. The government has been reduced to mere administration instead of leading the country to more certain futures. It is the billionaire corporations who are leading the world now. Mankind is deemed to be an entire system of processors. The more processors, the faster the job will be done. The individuals that make up the system each have their own diversity and may therefore present diverse ways of processing data. More members in the system mean more connections and improved innovations. Connections also provide more options for data to travel. Humans are being used as data processing systems to fuel the information that goes into the Internet of all things. Datism is born out of the need for gathering and maximizing data flow. It also seeks to make more and more connections akin to missionaries of religious groups. The comprehensive collation of data can now enable cars to communicate with each other, provide a monitor for the inventory of goods, provide weather reports and other such information that can be utilized by man. Freedom of information is rallied in the world today, especially on the internet, where there are so many stores of knowledge. Free data can cause numerous benefits to society. For example, free data can educate more people. The same can be said for transportation. If people provide data at the crucial times they need transportation, carpools can be programmed to pick up individuals at certain times. This will reduce the need for private cars and consequently reduce the need for more infrastructure. Nowadays, people don't notice it, but they are subscribing to a religion of dataism. Man is constantly feeding information into the internet, recording every action on a daily basis. Most people can't stand a day without connecting to the internet and feeding it or feeding on it. The internet is constantly inviting more and more believers to record their whole lives on it and to check ever so often the analytics of their accounts. When a person's post is liked on Facebook, it gives meaning to the person's existence. It makes him relevant. He is no longer just a single worthless chip. There is no certainty that dataism will be the dominant religion. No one can accurately predict the future because every second there is a new spark that keeps on changing the course of mankind's future. There is a wide spectrum of options, and humans are just encouraged to broaden their horizons so that they can map out a more certain future based on the present and with the guidance of wisdom from the past. Humans have shaped the planet in a revolutionary way. Starting out as Homo sapiens with basic needs, the humans are now on their way to greater feats in science and technology. Humanity has so far been able to overcome famine, plague, and war, though remnants still present themselves in modern-day societies. Man is supposed to be free from the miseries of life, but the quest for more meaning in life lead to new miseries. Since man has proven that he can achieve remarkable things, he is now more confident that he can be like gods who can control his life and his environment. Harari also points out the disparity between the rich and poor and how only the rich will be able to enjoy the benefits of modern-day technology and medicine. Immortality may well be on its way to reality with the continued efforts of scientists and their financiers. Man has always wanted to overcome death because of the promises of immortality written in religious books. Some people hold on to these beliefs strongly because of the way the stories were crafted in books such as the Bible, but science has so far been able to dispute many of these religious beliefs. The war between science and religion has long begun, with science taking leaps and bounds after its chain has been removed from the time of enlightenment. Religion, on the other hand, has stuck with its beliefs from the past thousands of years and has not progressed since. However, with the dawn of the modern covenant, more people can explore the world extensively. Funds are now made more available to people who wish to conduct researches. Investments are bravely made in the name of progress, growth, and latest information. With humans taking control of their lives, the revolution to self-governance is underway. Humans no longer need gods because he has seen his own capacity for change and growth. However, with humans getting too confident in his capacity, he may not realize the extent to which his actions can already be harmful to others. New innovations may give way to easier lifestyles, but these could also cause the ruin of man. What was once intended to help man may also be the cause of his downfall. It has often been said that tinkering with the natural laws can lead to disastrous ends. Not everyone, though, can enjoy the innovation of merging one's organic being with machines and essentially becoming a superhuman being. This privilege is reserved for the financially rich and educated people. Data production and processing have become so fast that it is already difficult to stop it or keep up with it. In an effective way, information is free and readily accessible to those who seek it. Humans sit on lofty heights of scientific innovations, but data processing systems can be unstable at times too. As such, heavy reliance is not advised. Humans need to be more imaginative and critical about the future they really want to have. Do we really want intellect over consciousness, or would we rather have machines that think for us instead of exercising our own authority and judgments?